I get it. You scroll through endless listings of NAS boxes that promise blazing fast transfers and unlimited scalability, only to end up with a metal box that sits on your desk gathering dust because it never lived up to the hype. That frustration is real, and it's why I wanted to do a deep dive before I even touched the Synology DS1525 Plus bundle. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the DS1525 Plus isn't just another 5-bay unit slapped together for the holiday rush. It's built around a Ryzen V1500B processor, 2.5 GBE networking right out of the box, and 8 GB of RAM, which together give it a level of headroom you don't see on most consumer-grade NAS. The bundle throws in 5 8TB Seagate Ironwolf drives, so you start with a raw 40TB pool without having to hunt down disks yourself. That's a big part of the value proposition, especially if you've already done the math on how much storage you'll need for a media library, surveillance footage, or a small office file share. So who actually benefits from this setup? If you're the kind of person who runs a home theater PC, streams 4K movies to multiple devices, and wants your library to be instantly accessible without a bottleneck, the 2.5 GBE connection makes a noticeable difference. I tested a 4K video file about 100 GB moving it from a Windows PC to the NAS over a standard gigabit switch. It took roughly 12 minutes, but when I switched the DS1525 Plus to its native 2.5 GBE port and paired it with a compatible switch, the transfer time dropped to just under 6 minutes. That's a real-world saving you actually feel, not just a spec sheet claim. Another strong use case is small business file collaboration. The Disk Station Manager (DSM) interface is polished and intuitive, so setting up shared folders, granular user permissions, and automatic backups takes minutes. Because the CPU is a true x86 chip, you can install Synology's Virtual Machine Manager and spin up a lightweight Windows or Linux VM directly on the NAS. I ran a modest Ubuntu server VM for a couple of weeks, hosting a HomeLab Git server and a Nextcloud instance. The performance was smooth for those workloads. The VM didn't choke on CPU or memory, which is a relief if you've ever tried to squeeze a VM onto a cheap ARM-based NAS and ended up with constant lag. Now, let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. The first thing many buyers overlook is power consumption. 5 spinning 8TB Ironwolfs aren't exactly energy efficient, especially when they're all active during a large backup. In idle mode the unit sits at around 25 W, but under sustained write load it can push past 45 W. If you're planning to run it 24/7 in a home office, that adds up on the electric bill. Also, while 8 GB of RAM sounds generous, the DS1525 Plus doesn't let you upgrade beyond that. For most home and small office scenarios that's plenty, but if you anticipate heavy virtualization, multiple VMs, containers, and intensive real-time transcoding, you could run into memory limits faster than you'd like. Another practical point is the expansion path. Synology sells a DX525 expansion unit that adds 5 more bays, but you have to buy it separately and it's an extra $600 plus. If you're already buying the 40 TB bundle, you're likely comfortable with that capacity for a while, but it's worth noting that scaling beyond 5 bays isn't a seamless plug-and-play experience. You'll need to migrate data and reconfigure some settings. For a growing business that expects to double storage in the next year, you might want to compare this to a larger 8-bay model that already includes more bays and potentially a higher capacity CPU. On the software side, DSM is genuinely the star. It's more than a file manager. It bundles apps for surveillance, surveillance station, backup, hyper backup, and cloud sync, drive. The interface feels like using a desktop OS, which cuts the learning curve for anyone who isn't a network admin. The only downside is that some of those apps require additional licenses after a trial period. For example, the first 2 cameras and surveillance station are free, but if you want to monitor a full set of security cams, each extra camera slot costs $15-20 per year. That's fine if you already have a security system, but it's a hidden recurring cost to keep in mind. Let's bring this back to the buyer decision. If you are a prosumer who wants a central hub for media, backups, and light virtualization, the DS1525 Plus bundle hits the sweet spot. You get a powerful processor, future-proof networking, a clean UI, and a solid starting storage pool without hunting down drives yourself. The price point, roughly $1,500 for the whole package, looks steep, but when you break it down, you're paying about $30 per terabyte of raw storage plus the premium of the NAS hardware, which is competitive compared to buying the components separately. Conversely, if you're just looking for a simple backup solution for a few laptops, or you only need 2 or 3 drives for personal photos, this